Vice Chancellor, Sir Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Guest of Honor, Laila Tarji Ma'am, Dean Academics, Dr. Neena Singh Zuchi, Dr. Deepthi Gupta, Registrar Sir Commander Manjeet Singh, Deans of Schools, colleagues, and dear students. I, Aparna Gawande, welcome you all on this wonderful November afternoon while we celebrate the National Design Guru Day at World University of Design. As you all know, World University of Design is India's first university dedicated to education in the creative domain. With 7 schools and more than 30 specializations on offer, WUD is one of its kind institution that has merged the boundaries between creative arts, architecture, design, management, and the performing arts. Our students get to experience, are exposed to, and learn from a very diverse and multifaceted environment with a community of teachers and learners spanning across disciplines. Together, we have built a culture where learning is not just imparted in the classroom, but also flows organically into the system through practice and perseverance. In our culture, the stature of a guru is supreme. A guru not only imparts knowledge, but also helps shape us into better human beings, emphasizing the values of compassion, empathy, and humanity. The meaning of the word guru itself is the one who dispels darkness. And one such guru was Professor M.P. Ranjan. Professor M.P. Ranjan was many things to many people. He was an educator and a mentor, pushing boundaries and encouraging each one of his students to do more and think more. He was a source of inspiration, igniting in his students an ability to think beyond their abilities. He was a farmer planting the seed of curiosity and discovery. Professor Ranjan had a lasting influence on the lives he touched and the students he taught. He taught that design thinking is a powerful tool that can be used to usher in change. He made every student feel special and important and was always connected to them, sometimes even years after they had graduated. In the loving memory of our design guru, Professor M.P. Ranjan, on his birth anniversary today, we have assembled here to felicitate another design guru, carrying forward the tradition of spreading knowledge and keeping our gurus and their teachings in our hearts. This year, World University of Design is felicitating Laila Tayabji ma'am as the National Design Guru. I would like to invite our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, to the dais to welcome and introduce our design guru. Sir.
A very good afternoon and welcome, Yaya, to the World University of Design campus. As Aparna was just saying, we are remembering today Anvi Ranjan as a design guru. I had the fortune to interact with him for a long time. And what was special about him was that he was available to you 24/7. And he was totally and absolutely dedicated to his work. He was a teacher, heart, body, and soul. So you can sit with him on the stairs, you can be with him in the classroom, you can be in a bus, he would take off his bag, which he always carried on his shoulder, and sit down with you, have a cup of tea, and start chatting and stuff. That's how it's a kind of teacher. That's why people remember him so much. And that's something which I find common with the guru we are honoring today. Yaya and I go back to 1996. That's when I first interacted with her. Though my interaction was very, very limited because there were other teachers who interacted with her, but I was always observing. And that's what I felt since that day. That here is another person who's totally into what she's doing. Today, craft continues to survive and flourish in India. I think a large credit for that goes to her. Let me explain. See, I have also worked with craftsmen for a long time, even during my bachelor days. What we observed was that an average craftsman lives every day. It's a hand to mouth situation for him. He weaves during the day, and we're talking about an average weaver, and gets his wages, or he sells a little bit of stuff, brings home some money in the evening, a part of which is used to buy the next set of yarn for next day's weaving, and next day dye, and so and so forth. Imagine if you, as designer, go and ask him to change a design. Not because you want it, because it will do well in the market. Would he take a chance on your suggestion? He doesn't have the time or money or patience. It's an everyday situation for him. What Lala did, and I think very few people may have seen it, is that she provided him the security to extend it. So that he can play around with design, do new developments, and not be worried where his food is going to come from or where his next door will come. Nature Bazaar and I think Pastari Hearts, which are now spread all over the country. That's what they started and that's what they provided. And that's why then we are in a situation today. We are, one of the few countries in the world where our traditional wear, saris, suits, kurta, pajamas, shawls, bachkans, we continue to wear them every day. Just look around. Every other country has moved to the Western style of clothing. Where are the traditional wear in Japan? You find them in museums or you find them in maybe some occasions. Same is true for whole of Southeast Asia. Thailand, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, look at that. They're all westernized. 100% westernized. But in India, if you look at the room here, you see so many traditional wear, saris, embroideries. How have they survived? They have survived because we could, there are kind of people, could make craft fashionable, could make craft continue to evolve and change with the changing times so that they continue to be relevant. That's the intervention we are talking about. I'll give you one more example because we're talking about the first batch of textile design graduates which I led in NIFT in 1996 was the first year. One girl who went to work with the Stavas, Sarika. I don't recall she went to Bhagalpur, I think, or Mushirabad or something. She went to work with a tussar weaver. And she created a simple change in a sari, which was being worn, into a twill sari, which added the braid to the sari and which made it so much fashion. That weaver made a few pieces, put it in the shop, it sold to me. Since then, that weaver never looked back. How do I know? Because I met him, I think at least 50 years later, in one of the sari bars. And you're still selling that, calling it the Sarika saris. And he told me that everybody, every village, every weaver in the village has converted onto that. So one intervention changed the life of the whole community. What's the impact? Imagine if you are not making such a price. Then you would also be the same. So that's why we have here Vela who has made all that possible. I don't know the statistics, but the Sky Hearts, Nature Bazaars, and all those festivals which are now all over the country. Lakhs of weavers and artisans are involved with her. And along with them, thousands of design students are involved. So she continues to be a queen to the students as well as to the artists. So welcome, Della, to the campus. It's a pleasure to have.
Thank you, sir. I now take this opportunity to invite Laila Darji ma'am to the dais and also request Dr. Sanjay Gupta and Dr. Neela Joshi to felicitate our design guru. Which is small photo. हाँ ये ले लो. Laila Tarji is a name synonymous with the revival and renaissance of traditional Indian crafts and the empowerment of artisans across the country. Her remarkable journey as a designer, activist, and co founder of Dastakar, the Society for Crafts and Craftspeople, has left an indelible mark on the Indian cultural landscape. With her unwavering dedication and pioneering spirit, Leila Darji has played a pivotal role in promoting indigenous crafts, fostering economic opportunities for artisans, and preserving the rich tapestry of India's artistic heritage. Born on the 2nd of May 1947 in Delhi, Leila Darji's early years were marked by a diverse and multicultural upbringing. Her educational journey took her to the Wellington Girls' School in Dehradun and further to the Faculty of Fine Arts at MS University, Vadodara, where she honed her artistic skills. Her passion for art and design led her on a transformative journey to Japan, where she studied under the renowned Japanese printmaking artist Toshi Yoshida. This experience not only deepened her artistic prowess, but also exposed her to the intricate world of traditional craftsmanship. Returning to India, Laila Banerjee began her career as a freelance designer, embarking on diverse assignments encompassing graphic and interior design, theatre costumes and sets, as well as garments and textiles. Her early years in the industry were marked by her spirited and outspoken nature, making her a trailblazer long before the advent of feminist movements in India. The pivotal turning point in her career came when she was approached by the Gujarat State Handloom and Handicrafts Development Corporation Limited with a unique assignment. Her task was to document, revive, and design traditional handicrafts from the Kutch region. What was initially intended as a 3-month engagement extended to 6 months due to the sheer complexity and depth of the task at hand. Returning from Kutch, Laila Taibji found herself working as a merchandiser for Taj Khazana, a chain of luxury lifestyle stores operated by the Taj Group of Hotels, specializing in Indian arts and crafts. It was here that she confronted the challenges faced by small rural artisans in accessing and benefiting from the mainstream retail market. This experience sowed the seeds of an innovative idea, the creation of an organization that would serve as a bridge between craftspeople and urban buyers. And thus, in 1981, Dastakar was born. The primary objective of Dastakar was to equip traditional craftspeople with the essential tools for success, including design, product development, market insights, and entrepreneurship training. One of Dastakar's most iconic initiatives was the introduction of Dastakari Bazaars, where craftspeople could directly sell their own products in the metro markets. This innovative concept, initiated in New Delhi, soon spread to other major Indian cities, becoming annual events that continue to thrive today. Over the last 35 years, Dastakar, under Laila Tayebji's visionary leadership, has partnered with numerous craft organizations and NGOs to uplift artisans and provide them with economic opportunities. Dastakar's unique approach ensures that the ownership of goods remains with the artisans who produce them. The organization provides these artisans with entrepreneurial training, credit assistance, design support, and product development techniques. Today, Dastakar boasts of a vast network of over 700 artisan groups, collectively comprising more than 1 lakh craftspeople. Her commitment to artisans extends across the length and breadth of the country, encompassing diverse craft forms such as Banjara needle crafts, Rabari mirror work from Kutch, chicken craft from Lucknow, Gond, Fun, Matani Pachediyar, Madhubani printers, Kasuti embroidery from Karnataka, handloom weavers from Bihar, as well as leather, textile, and terracotta artisans in Rajasthan. In addition to her practical contributions, Laila Tayabji authored Threads and Voices Behind the Indian Textile Tradition, published in 2007. She continues to advocate for crafts and craftspeople as the chairperson of the SCAR and as a prolific writer with numerous articles published both online and offline. In recognition of her exceptional contributions to India's craft sector, in 2012, Lala Dayabji was honored with the prestigious Padma Shri Award by the Government of India. As a guru, she has created a new path in revolutionizing Indian handicrafts, infusing them with contemporary relevance while maintaining their historical significance. Laila Darji's initiatives have not only revived interest in these crafts, but also integrated them into modern lifestyles while supporting creativity, sustainability, and socio-economic progress in India. Her work stands as a beacon of hope and change in the world of traditional craftsmanship, making her a true champion of Indian arts and culture. Recognizing and celebrating her work, World University of Design is honored to name her as the National Design Guru for the year 2023 as we pay tribute to the vision, legacy, and efforts of late Professor M.P. Ranjan. I now request our design guru Laila Pepsi ma'am to kindly enlighten us with her thoughts.
Hello, everyone. After hearing all that, I'm not sure that you want to hear me, but thank you so much for this invitation. I'm honored and pleased to be with you today, but also a little surprised and a little nervous. However, I did know Professor Ranjan well. I loved his passion, his clarity of mind, his understanding, humanity, and humor. In fact, he made learning fun, which is, I think, the core of good education. To be given an award in his memory is moving. We would both have smiled at the thought all those years ago, sitting and drinking tea and talking design at the NID canteen. It's a long time since I myself left art school. I was at the Faculty of Fine Arts in Baroda and then in Japan. I loved and learned many things, both inside and outside the classroom. I confess I did imagine that leaving college also meant the end of studying and exams. A bit of bad news I have to give you is that learning never stops and every day has a test. Funnily enough, though, that is what actually makes life worth living. Whether you are studying design or political science, a useful lesson in being part of hundreds of students is learning to live with others, something very important in the India of today. No one is always a hero or heroine, a genius or a star, and some of us never will be. Names, community, and religion have very little to do with anything. All of us are sometimes sad or bad, useless at something, temporarily unpopular. People fail exams, are rejected in love, suffer from insecurity. Girls with millionaire fathers can also have broken homes or indifferent parents. Coping with all this in crowded classrooms where nothing is private and one is never alone is an important part of university life and the process of growing, as important as what you learn in the classroom. School and university equipped me in an unexpected way for the quite varied, demanding, occasionally bizarre scenarios of my life, explaining the genetics of white tigers in Japanese to the future emperor of Japan, being in the midst of communal riots in Gujarat, trying to persuade mothers whose children had been burnt alive that they should remain non-violent, teaching sex workers in Sialda jail Kantha embroidery, being thrown in a ditch by a BSF sergeant, working in Indian villages with communities as varied as burqa clad chicken workers in Lucknow, tribals in Bihar, Rabaris and Lambani gypsies, Rajasthani Regas, and running an organization, Daskar, that now works all over India. I was lucky to grow up in an age and institutions that were completely secular and non denominational. People's parents' beliefs and their positions in life seemed quite irrelevant. The only caste system was moral integrity and excellence. Politics, religion, money, where you were born, the things that seemed to dominate life afterwards did not concern us. We somehow absorbed from the freedoms as well as the disciplines a balance, an ethical framework, a sense of what it meant to be contemporary and Indian. Education frees the spirit of man, said Nehru. Education is something all of us take for granted, even groan about as a necessary but boring grind. But I spend my time with women who have no education at all. For them, education is as unattainable as the moon. As a result, they are deprived, marginalized, and looked down upon, given the unpaid, backbreaking, beast of burden jobs. Even when battered, beaten with multiple pregnancies, they have no recourse but to endure. These village women I work with have found new horizons through their crafts. They have started their own bank accounts, lend money from their savings to the rest of the village, travel and market their products all over India. But what they really work for, invest in, and crave is a good education for their children. All over India, women endure loveless marriages, break stones for a living, work an 18-hour day just to give their children the opportunities that all of us take for granted. You are extraordinarily privileged, and having been given that opportunity, you must use it. The education we get is our gold credit card to the world, the key to our multiple choices. We should value it and use it with respect and with care. Without being priggish or giving up the good things of life, we must be aware that we live in a country with 360 million people below the poverty line. People so poor that children start working when they are barely 8 or 9. Most of them live in villages without light or drinking water, when all of us moan about half an hour without an AC. Spending time with them, I realize how lucky I am, how little right I have to complain. An amazing advantage that I share with you is that it's the 21st century. India has nuclear capability and the world's fastest growing IT industry, but we also have crafts and craftspeople. All over India, we have these extraordinary skills, able to handcraft everything from a terracotta tumbler to a temple, a wicker basket to diamond jewelry. These are part of our aesthetic and our culture, but they are also an important part of our economy. To me, these skill sets and knowledge systems represent a gold mine, an edge we have over the rest of the world. However, there's so much discrimination in Indian society, with age-old prejudices of caste, community, and gender coexisting with newly coined ones born of education, wealth, power, and privilege, even the color of one's skin, all being expressed in openly aggressive new worlds ways. The caste people I work with suffer similar forms of discrimination, seen at best as picturesque exhibits of an exotic but irrelevant India, rather than the skilled professionals that they are. I have received many awards, but I still work on the footpath, said one national awardee. It's a grave pit, not the loom pit, said another master weaver. His grim words borne out by recurring headlines of starvation deaths of handloom weavers. When I asked my Lambani class women why they prefer wearing horrid nylon milk printed saris rather than their own glorious mirrored and embroidered costumes, they say that it is because as jungly tribals they are not allowed into temples or even coffee shops. I'm 76 and I spent half my life abroad and half in India. And one thing is absolutely clear to me. What makes us interesting as a nation is the differences, not the similarities. We need our history, economics, and colonialism means that we are trying to catch up with the West in almost every aspect of industrialization and development. So, if we want to capture the world, we have to do it on the basis of our skills, not our weaknesses. And one of our strengths is our distinctive aesthetic and knowledge systems. Not just the materials, motives, and techniques, but the unique way traditional communities look at things and problem solve, use waste, take from the environment, give back to it. Upstairs, we were looking at fashion garments which were talking about zero waste. Look at our sari, 6 yards, which you don't cut, you don't stitch, you don't do anything, and which your great grandchildren can wear and still be in the height of fashion. We are fortunate enough if we're fortunate in India to have both craftspeople with extraordinary and distinctive skill traditions, as well as scientists, designers, and technocrats capable of sending satellites into space. Both sectors have some of the liveliest minds and talents. Alas, the two seldom meet. Japan is a brilliant example for us. The ability of Japanese designers to integrate the elements of their own uniquely Japanese style and mindset into their stunningly contemporary design, be it architecture, high fashion, or electronics. We too should use our rich and varied design and process base to create a new, contemporary, relevant aesthetic. The world is ready for it. The dilemma today is that rural craftspeople are distanced from their end users in ways that were never the case before. Therefore, they find it difficult to keep up with the pace of change. And urban designers are similarly distanced from the crafts tradition, a divide that both IFT and an urban designer can bridge, and institutions like the World University of Design should come to bridge as well. Similarly, the choice is not an either or of technology or traditional skill. Each has its place and purpose, and a linking of both would create an exciting and necessary dynamic. Rather than dismiss our Indian hand traditions and with them the country's amazing techniques that machines can never replicate, let's apply innovation, design, technology, and all your brilliant young minds to working on the structure and processes to see in what ways they can be made more relevant and less labor intensive while retaining their inherent strengths. Tradition and innovation are not two separate, mutually exclusive processes. They should be a partnership. Avivo in Kanjivaram just won an award for adapting his loom to operate it single handedly rather than needing additional trained apprentices. I can think of dozens of other craft techniques, from dhokra metal casting to lath bangle making, where a little ergonomic design would ease the lives of these fantastic creative artists and give them the space and time to innovate and explore. This goes from upgrading raw material to developing appropriate packaging for the finished product. And obviously, this includes streamlining the process itself. An artisan need not sit on the floor whittling with a piece of broken stone in order to qualify as a craftsperson. Design today is a global force that impacts us all, but also divides societies and cultures, creating its own caste system. I am therefore keen to get design out of this rather precious box that we put it in, a sacred subject that can be understood only by those speaking English. With rural class people that I work with, there's actually a knee-jerk superior and inferior typecasting between them and the professional designer, even though the crafts people are the ones who have been practicing traditions going back hundreds of years. As one craftsperson sardonically said, not all designers are craftspeople, but every craftsperson is a designer. Those of you who go to work with crafts communities should remember that. They are the professionals, we are the students. Those of us who have gone through a formal art or design education have been taught to realize our own creative imagination to the full and given the technical expertise to do so. Working with craftspeople, there's a conflict, both of function and responsibility. Whose creativity are you to express, your own or the craftsperson? The issue can become terribly emotive, given that motive, form, and usage are still so linked in India with tradition, culture, community, region. To change or not to change? And who is it who dictates those changes? One has to dampen one's own creative flame in order to light the craftsperson's fire. One must push, not pull. One needs to inspire craftspeople to do their own innovation, not stun them into passive replication. The people you work with must be taught to use their minds and imagination as well as their hands, and you must treat them as equals, not inanimate machines. Tradition shouldn't become a static cage just as contemporizing should not be purely imitative of the West. In this process, we should not lose this tradition of unique craft techniques, motifs, shapes, and designs. That is our strength and our signature. Rather, we should use the past as the springboard to go forward. Reach back to the Vedas for inspiration by all means, but also use the expertise and insights we have acquired since then. Working in an Indian craft tradition does not have to look like Bajirao Mastani or the Taj Mahal. National identity should not become ethnic kitsch, become modern, but return to the sources. In India, design is often confused with ornamentation. Design is used like an aerosol spray in a smelly bathroom to pretend that obsolete, stale things are fresh. It is important to realize that design is not just about making things look good, but a way to examine, understand, and reshape our lifestyles, our society, and ourselves. A look out of our windows at the jumble of concrete, electric wires, tangled traffic, and mutilated green spaces, for instance, and the smog that we see outside. Thank you. And the noise and confusion and angst of those of us who live in it show how bad contemporary India has been at designing its urban spaces and safeguarding its environment and heritage. Design doesn't just mean making pretty patterns, it's about linking a need with a function, finding solutions. Having learned the methodology of design, we have a responsibility to apply it to this earth and those who inhabit it. A generally accepted truism in India is that design is the diametric opposite of science, a rather frivolous fringe activity fit only for girls looking for husbands. Worried parents urging their sons to go into engineering, management, or medicine shudder at the thought that he might opt to be that effete object, a designer. It escapes the average layman that every surgical instrument and bridgehead needs to be designed in order to fulfill its function, and that engineering, management, and design are inseparable siblings of each other. For the man in the street, design means decoration. Wrong, wrong, wrong. I think it was Steve Jobs who said, design is not just what it looks like and feels like, design is how it works. A wonderful painting by the famous French painter Paul Gauguin is entitled, Where Do We Come From? What are we? Where are we going? It's a question that often reverberates in my head. There's a growing separation between urban and rural India in values, attitudes, and aspirations, and an increasing marginalization of traditional skill sets and knowledge. In the lemming rush to Western modernity and industrialization, both traditional communities and the urban middle class are busy throwing out the baby with the bathwater. India's greatest advantage is that we have our feet in both East and West and have not lost our cultural knowledge systems in the process of acquiring new aptitudes like English or information technology. This duality needs to be passed on to the next generation. You are that next generation, and it is you who will decide what kind of world we live in. For those of you worrying that working in the craft and development sector means being sidelined from the mainstream, slotted as a jholawala rather than an executive, let me share the excitement and adventure of being a person catalyzing change in a rural village rather than being stuck as a small cog in an anonymous corporate ecosystem. I can't tell you the fun and fulfillment I've had in my 50 years working with craftspeople. It's a double whammy. You have the ability to create something that's uniquely yours, but also the delight of actually seeing its impact on that community. A woman burnt herself to death when I first went to work in Ranthambore. She was in despair at how to support her family. Today, her daughters are among the wealthiest women in the village, earning through the hard hand skills that Daskar taught them. Embracing complexity is a phrase I heard describing universities today. It's a mindset that we need in order to capitalize on what we have inherited. Embrace, experience, and enjoy this rich diversity, our ability to live in multiple worlds. We are so lucky to have it. The American writer Tennessee Williams said, "Make journeys, attend them. It's the only way." What India needs now is not just physical journeys, but a voyage of inner and external discovery, a reaching out to new horizons of the mind and spirit. We should attempt many more such bridgings of design and of ourselves. Growing up, I had the good fortune to have a father who told me, "I don't care what you do in life as long as you do it with passion and do it with pleasure." I've carried that as a banner through my 76 years, and I recommend it to all of you as a mantra. Today, as you go out on your own journey, not only to design things or even design your own life, but to reshape the jigsaw of our complex, incredible India, let me end with that same message. You should live life and each minute as if it was your last. Life and education are too precious to waste in being bored, being passive, missing opportunities, being second rate, feeling stressed, following peer pressure, sticking in your own narrow comfort zone. As the painter Harvey Matisse said, creativity takes courage. I wish you all that courage. Thank you.
Thank you. With your kind permission, can you open the house with some question and answer, ma'am? Sure. Students or faculty, anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask.
What has been 30 years? 50 years. 50 years. I think it's saying no more questions.
Please, one more video, demonstrating please to. So the three elements, things as they are doing, going forward. How do you think these students will be working with artists in this time? For sure, we
Yeah. Well, I think in some ways, life has become easier both for the craft person and the design student because traveling has become easier, access has become easier. When I started working Kutch, we used to live in the village and there were no cell phones, there was no receiving water, completely isolated. Today, not only we have the access, but our people also. What they don't learn from the student, they do have access to the internet, to Pinterest, to Google, and so they're not quite as passive or dependent as they used to be. One of the worrying things when I started working was our class people took everything we said as gospel. And it was a very dangerous power you had because you could tell them to do something, they would do it. And then they wouldn't question it. Today, I think the younger middle class people are much more alive to the fact that there's no one solution, there are many solutions, and that the best way of moving forward is to um, question and try everything. So that's a very good thing. What I think has been a negative thing is that the attitude, the urban attitude to class people has not really changed. We don't think of them as professionals, skilled professionals. We still think of them as something backward. And that's again a very dangerous attitude for young students because when they arrive in a village to work, they're given a lot of hope and they're given a lot of respect and there's very little questioning. And I think so design students need to question themselves about the solutions that they're suggesting. They need to do a little bit of homework also. So many students go into to do their documentation or to do their internship in a craft pocket. And they really don't do any homework before. They don't have an idea of what the traditions are, what the materials are, the techniques. And they have, they see it as a sort of jaunt removed from their everyday life. And not all of them to stand to realize that this is a learning for them as well as the class person. So I would really say to any class, any student, any designer working with class today, what I say to my own discussed that when you interact with class people, listen not just with your ears, but with your head and your heart as well.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Any student has any questions? Oh, well, I have done so many times from country and the world, especially India with developing world. What are you addressed by the class community?
What do I address?
What do they call you?
What do they call me? They call me different things. In South India, they say Amma. In Rajasthan and Gujarat, they say Benji. In somewhere they call me Didi. Somewhere they call me just whatever they like.
Any such message that you would have comes when you that book or any such incident that you ever especially
Well, actually, many because obviously in 50 years I met so many people. I now know families where I've known three, four generations. And I've learned, I think, much, much more from them than I have taught them. I think the one thing that I've taught them is to be proud of themselves and their own skills because they have such a humble opinion and they think that all of us in the city are much cleverer and better than them. So I think that if I have an achievement, it's to make them understand that they are equals, perhaps are superiors, they just have a different set of skill sets. Of course, the thing that fascinates all women, whether it's in Karnataka, whether it's in Kashmir, whatever their community, whatever their region, is the fact that I'm not married. I mean, for an Indian rural woman, this still is something that they find very amazing. But it's very interesting to see how the women divide into two categories. There's some who feel very sorry for me. And until say they used to offer their help to find me a husband. They said, it's still not too late, You need to have a husband and you need to have children. And there are others, and I won't split it into percentages, you can guess, who think that I'm very fortunate. And that, when they say that you have so much freedom, you can decide in the morning what you want to do. You can go wherever you want. You can dress however you want. And in fact, they've been both in Bihar and in Kashmir, and I think also in Rajasthan. They have been young girls who tell me that I want to be exactly like you. and I don't ever want to get married. In fact, one of them, I think, from Bihar, then came and worked in NIFT as well. Uh, and I have to explain to them that I think it's very, very difficult for a rural girl these days still to remain unmarried. My life has been completely different. I came from a family that allowed me to make my own choices. There was no social discrimination. And I think that that's again something that all of us who interact with rural India have to remember that we are all human beings, but some communities still have more barriers and more constraints than we do. And we have to be sensitive to that. Yes. Sorry? You have to work with government also. No, I'm glad to say that Daskar is a voluntary organization and we are completely independent. We don't, in fact, in the early days, yes, we did sometimes take a government scheme, the exhibition scheme when we started our bazaars, design scheme, etc. But now we don't use any government schemes because we feel it gives us the freedom then to critique the government if we want to. And it's also, I think, that for those of us who say that craft is still a huge economic force today, we have to prove it by showing that craft and the marketing of craft need not be subsidized. It doesn't really need to be. In fact, in our Nature Bazaar venue, I don't know how many of you have been there, where we do monthly events. We pay the Delhi government. We pay them rent and we give them 22% of whatever we generate. So, and still we somehow managed, and even through COVID, we somehow managed. You answer my question. My question was how did we deal with the power? How did we deal? We didn't have to. We didn't have to because we were doing our own programs and we had, in the early days, as I said, when we did occasionally take a government program, it was a very lengthy process. The schemes are very rigid. Even when there's good will, it's not easy to sort of navigate through it, which is why so many schemes are not used because people for whom they're meant can't possibly do that paperwork, do that work to give. Even in Delhi, living in Delhi, Daskar being based in Delhi, being an English speaking organization, it was difficult enough. And so actually it's much easier for us today without all the I think that's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Students, anyone has any questions or can we wind up soon? Okay.
Well, I would just say to them that, as I said in my speech, that the great thing about India today is that you can do both, you know. If you're using Indian textiles or you're using Indian embroideries or any kind of Indian skill, the end product doesn't have to be something which is sort of like medieval India. You can do very contemporary Western styles. After all, so many people in India are wearing Western clothes. So you don't have to sort of try to squeeze yourself into either Western or traditional Indian. It should be a melding of both. And if you do that, you have an advantage over the rest of the world because very few countries have the kind of techniques that we have in India. And if you want to make your mark or you look at Indian designers who have made their mark in the West, it is mainly those who have used Indian textiles, Indian hand skills, Indian Zardodi embroidery, Shama Puja, who sort of made the Dari an international uh, interior accessory, Anoki, all these, the things, the Indian brands that have done well in the West have done well because they have used Indian skills and Indian materials to make something contemporary and workable for that international market.
Thank you, ma'am. With this, we have come to the end of today's event. Thank you, Laila ma'am, for inspiring all of us with your experience, the depth of your knowledge, the passion towards your work, and your charismatic disposition. I'm sure the learnings from today are going to have a great impact on the future of our aspiring designers. So, I again thank our Vice Chancellor, Sir Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Neena ma'am, Dean Academics ma'am, Registrar Sir, Dr. Dipti Gupta, and of course our guest of honor, Laila ma'am, for gracing this occasion. And I request you all to please proceed for writing. Thank you so much and wish you a great evening and a happy Diwali.